Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. It is game day. The U.S. men's national team plays today in the World Cup, just a few hours away as of this recording, or actually just a little over an hour away.
Yeah,
Keith, this better be a quick show. A quick show. We got
I know. We got to zip right through it.
we got to be ready for this big game that's coming up here today. But I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, I'll ask you this: does it feel weird to you that the World Cup is taking place in November?
Yes, it's very awkward that it's now I'm kind of cool with it though, because it's going to be like World Cup flows into it's Thanksgiving week here in the US, because I know we have quite a few international watchers and listeners. Thanksgiving week means college basketball tournaments. So there'll be college basketball on in the afternoon. So it's like World Cup flows right into that, flows right into the NBA tonight. So I'm kind of digging that part of it. But yeah, it is weird. And hey, nothing against any Welsh fans we may have of the front office show, but
I know there's
you're
a
going
lot
down today. It's I don't like you for, let's say, the next few hours, and then we can go back to our cordial relations.
That's right. That's right. I had to bust out the classic U.S. men's national team jersey today with the old crest on it and everything. I think this is the last one that had the old crest on it, but
yeah, it might be.
Yeah, we're hoping for a good result there. We'll see. Fingers crossed. What's going to happen? I'm in the same boat. I think it does feel weird having the World Cup right now. This time, I'm just so used to it being a summertime thing that it does feel strange. But nonetheless, I'm fired up. Let's get into some NBA though. Let's talk basketball. Let's certainly not talk football, as your team put on a disgusting display yesterday, except for the final 10 seconds. That was the grossest game.
It was funny. The last game to finish 3-3 was something like 1916 or something. Man. So one of the Patriots writers tweeted, had that happened, we could officially say this game set football back 85 years. Which is brutal. Yeah, it was not the best display, but hey,
at least you got the result you were looking for
with the punt return.
That's
6-4, 13-4 inbound, baby.
That's right. That may be happening. We'll see here. We'll see. They got a big one that's coming up on Thursday.
Yeah. Minnesota and Buffalo back-to-back Thursdays.
That's right. It's gonna be a good day. Gonna be a good day. All right. Let's start off with this. The Bucks are rumored to be the team that is most likely to trade for Jae Crowder. We've talked about them already in terms of being a landing spot potentially for Jae Crowder and why this makes sense for Milwaukee. I still think it does. We talked about maybe a 3-team deal involving Grayson Allen, something being developed around that. But again, this is just, yep. I mean, that's kind of my reaction. Yep, like this makes sense for the Bucks to be potentially the landing spot, as well as it makes sense for the Suns to be pushing forward and trying to get a deal done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think this is just one of those, when you start to hear some stuff so often, eventually it comes together. It's almost like, one of those things where, all right, we heard it for 3 or 4 weeks. And again, this could be, hey, we just got to wait a couple more weeks until we can free up and trade everybody who was signed over the summer. And maybe there's already something in place. But yeah, I tend to think this is the way it can go. Milwaukee can get there matching salary wise. I think the big question is this a direct trade, or does this work into some form of a 3-team deal? Because I don't know delivering value to Phoenix if there's something there for a direct Milwaukee Phoenix trade, or if it has to be a 3-team deal. So we'll see how it comes together. But yeah, I'm thinking unless some other team really comes in and beats this offer, we may see Jae Crowder in Milwaukee soon.
All right, sticking with the trade front here, the Jazz apparently have said, well, we've played well enough thus far, dismantle the tank, let's try to win, and they're now interested in trading for John Collins. Do you like his potential fit in Utah? You already see, Kelly Olynyk and Lauri Markkanen kind of in those roles, as well as Jared Vanderbilt. What would John Collins add to this team? Do you think that's a necessary target for them?
Yeah, I do. I like that fit because I think you can play him with those other bigs. I think his shooting range plus their shooting range allows them to not have to occupy the same space on the floor. I think 2 big lineups only fall apart when they're two bigs who both need to be like working in the post or in and around the paint a lot. And all those guys can, except for Jared Vanderbilt, he doesn't have a lot of range, but he's still fine. You can play him with any of those other guys too. So yeah, I really like it long term for the Jazz. I think this is a further sign of, maybe Utah is saying like, hey, we've outsourced the tank. We're going to let Minnesota and Cleveland see where those picks fall from them, and we're going to go. Now, we're going to get into it in a little bit, but Mike Conley is out. So let's see what happens here over the next couple weeks. And if that starts to change priorities for Utah at all, because they had stumbled a little bit in the standings, but they seem to have fixed that and gotten back on track. So yeah, but John Collins to the Jazz. Yeah, I'd be very curious to see what they send the other way. That's what I'm curious about, because obviously Atlanta's not trading John Collins without getting significant value back. And I'm just not sure what the match would be between these two teams.
Yeah, and maybe it has to be a 3-team deal or something like that in order to get it done. Keith, I don't know if you saw this, but the U.S. just announced their starting 11.
Oh, I got to check it out.
That is out. It is Matt Turner gets the nod in the net.
All right.
Can't complain about that. Serginho Dest, Walker Zimmerman, Tyler Adams, Anthony Robinson making up the defense. Yunus Musa, Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic. Tim Ream is also out there. So there's another defender in the mix. So
Adams will be in the
midfield. Yeah. I was reading it the wrong way there, but Tim Ream will be
they just put him in the number order.
In the number order. Tim Weah and Josh Sargent.
Yeah, Sargent's been on a goal scoring binge, so I guess we can live with that. So yeah,
that's a lot of faith in Josh Sargent. We'll see if that's going to be rewarded or not.
6 subs in the World Cup this year too, because of the with everything. So yeah,
which I think honestly, like, I don't want to get into a full soccer tangent, but I like that change. I think that's something that's in general necessary for that. The 3, it was so restrictive having 3 subs. That I do like this, particularly as you're going to prioritize head injuries and the way you respond to those. I think it just makes it.
Well, they do have a special. It happened this morning in the England-Iran game. They have a special concussion sub that they're allowed to do in this World Cup too, and they had to unfortunately do that for Iran's goalkeeper. But anyway, all right, back to basketball.
Yep, back to basketball. All right, let's get it. Let's just go into the bit about Mike Conley, since we're talking about the Jazz already. So he has a knee strain, out for potentially a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Do you think this could trigger a Jazz slide? Is he enough of a piece for Utah that this could be a major problem, or is this just something they can kind of weather the storm and get through it?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, they should be fine. They have Colin Sexton, who will presumably see his role pick up. Taylor Horton-Tucker has done quite a bit of ball handling. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's there for a deeper depth piece. You can run some stuff through Jordan Clarkson, but he's tends to be more of a get his own looks kind of guy. So I think they'll be okay without Conley. If he's out long term, that'll be a little tricky. Conley's averaging a career high in assists, almost 8 assists per game. So he's not shooting very much. He's just kind of really running the show there in Utah. But
the reason for that, though, is because I just checked on this. The Jazz have yet to miss a jump shot. So
yeah, it feels
that's the way. So that helps when you're looking for.
They don't miss very much inside either. So he's doing quite well. So yeah, I think we're in a position where I think they do look pretty okay without him, but we'll see, right? Because it's rarely in the NBA, unless it's a true super duper star. It's not about the guy you lose. It's what happens with the guys behind him.
Yes.
It's going into that. Most teams have a credible backup, but it's them. What's that third and maybe a fourth guy if you need it? Well, what does that look like? But I think they'll be okay. Without Conley, but yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes, because Colin Sexton's settled into a nice role where he's really kind of the role a lot of people have said is like his best role is to be a 6-man scorer, and now presumably he's probably going to have to start games, unless sometimes we see coaches, they like to keep a guy in their role, so maybe they go to something like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and say, hey, you're going to start, but instead of Conley coming in 6 minutes into the quarter, he'll come in 4 minutes into a quarter or something like that. I'm curious to see how that all comes together in Utah.
Yeah, be interesting to see exactly how they handle that.
Good news, though, for the Jazz. I don't know if you saw it. It was a non-contact play. and Conley went down, and those tend to be
It's
bad.
really bad.
It looked like, oh crap, this might be the year for him, but thankfully it's not. It's just a strain in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that was the best possible outcome in that situation. Something we didn't mention before we came on here: the Kings rumored to not be looking to trade Harrison Barnes. He's a guy who's been in trade rumors forever, but the Kings now winning basketball games. Last I looked, I think they were the 5 seed in the Western Conference. So, what are your thoughts there? I mean, he's an expiring deal. At some point, do you decide that you want to get? Oh, we got a goal there for the Netherlands.
Yeah, another one for the Netherlands. Yeah.
But in any Sacramento, currently sitting in the 5 seed. They are the owners of a 6-game win streak currently.
Light the beam, baby. Right. I love it.
What are your thoughts here? Does this make sense keeping Harrison Barnes, or at some point do you say, well, let's try to get some value before somebody's going to pay him next summer?
As long as you're still winning, you got to keep him. You can't move him. I would not be surprised if they keep winning. If we see Harrison Barnes back in Sacramento, he seems to be found a home there. Remember, he already signed 1 extension with the Kings. Previous, I think they really like what he's done with Keegan Murray in that starting group. So I think there is a chance. That's how that goes. So yeah, I'm I think it's great with them. I want to throw something at you. This is coming completely out of left field to you.
Okay.
De'Aaron Fox, don't look it up. What do you think he's shooting at the rim this year?
95%. Having played against the Kings.
90.2%.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like I said 95% to be hyperbolic and make a joke out of it.
Yeah, no, 90.2%, 58.6% from floater range for Fox. That makes up 40% of his shot profile too.
That makes sense. Having seen the Lakers play the Kings, that does make sense.
Overall, 55.8% from the field for De'Aaron Fox. So that'll obviously level.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not sustainable. He can make a big improvement there. Sure. But you also have to, like, if you're a Kings fan, you have to expect there's going to be some just natural regression. Doesn't mean he's not still going to be good and everything, but you just have to realize that there's going to be some games where he's not going to be quite that efficient at the rim.
But 90% at the rim, that's insane.
That is.
The guy was like 6'2". That's huge.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Light the beam, baby. Light the beam. I love it. It's my favorite thing. I love that they turned it into a whole on-court thing at home after wins. Where they come in, they hit somebody, they pick a player that hits the button, and the crowd goes crazy. I don't know if you heard the crowd chants now at the end of the games. They start chanting "Light the beam."
It's great to energize a fan base that hasn't been to the playoffs since what, 18 years now, something like that.
Yep. Yeah, it's pushing up there.
Yeah.
So. All right.
Moving on. Let's Kyrie Irving returned to the court for the Brooklyn Nets, and they got a win over the Memphis Grizzlies, which we need to talk a little bit about the Grizzlies in just a moment. Kyrie Irving back in action, though. The Nets 8-9 on the season, sitting in the 9 seed. Does this set things right in Brooklyn, or are there still a lot of major issues there?
I mean, they've got to figure some stuff out still. Ben Simmons, great game against the Grizzlies. He started at the 5. Nick Claxton was out. And I believe he was like 11 of 13 from the floor. Really did just a nice job. So that might be where we need to see Ben Simmons operate from more often. But yeah, their defense is still a little shaky. At times, the offense, it's good. It's going to take a little bit to kind of find its footing fully. But I think we're starting to see maybe what their vision was for this roster as they put it together. And if they can, let's give it the next month and a half or so leading up to the trade deadline, and then we'll have a really good understanding of what are we as a team and what do we need to go do with that. I don't know that they. I don't know that they climb into like the top 1, 2, or 3 in the East, but I think they can definitely get themselves. There's still plenty of time left, obviously, for them to get themselves into the top 6 in the assured playoff spot.
All right, let's jump over to let's talk about those Memphis Grizzlies. Ja Morant out with an ankle sprain. Now, this team was remarkably efficient dealing with Ja Morant missed games last season. They just they just kept on rolling. In fact, there were points where Grizzlies fans were saying, do we need Ja back? Yes.
I want to say
do.
Grizzlies fans, and I'm putting that in quotes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, it was, if people were worried about disrupting the chemistry and all that, but anyway, not to go down that whole rabbit hole. It was always silly to suggest that they don't need Ja Morant, but now you've got him missing games with an ankle sprain. You lose to, frankly, I mean, the Grizzlies should be a better team than the Nets based on what we've seen so far this season. So this is a game where you could say, well, if Ja plays, this game probably goes a different way. What does Memphis need to do in order to, just like if some of these other teams, weather the storm?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is it's not just Ja, right? Because it's Desmond Bane is out, Jaren Jackson Jr. sat out. The Triple J one was just being cautious. There's no re-injury or anything like that, but Bane's out for at least a couple more weeks. Ja's probably week to week. That doesn't sound great. That usually generally means a couple weeks that a player will be out there. So yeah, they're going to be tested right now. It's going to be really hard for them, I think, mostly to keep the offense moving. I think they can still defend at a pretty good level. I just worry about who's going to score. And that was a little bit of the challenge in that game last night. You saw Dillon Brooks took 30 shots, which, I mean, that's probably Dillon Brooks' dream, right? Let me go.
He's so happy.
Right. Yeah. But it was 13 of 30, 3 of 11 from 3. He scored 31 points. And then the rest was just kind of a little bit of a mixed bag. So they need the rookies, LaRavia and Roddy, to step up their game some and do some scoring here. But yeah, it's not great for sure for the Grizzlies right now.
Yeah, and you're right. It's not just the Ja Morant thing. It's everybody else. It's Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, and Triple J can help out a little bit on the scoring front, but you're gonna have to be careful with him.
I mean, with Bane and Miranda, that's 50 points per game. That you're missing.
I think people don't understand how good Desmond Bane has been this season.
Like how big he's an all-star. I mean, he may still be an all-star. 2 weeks isn't going to cost you, but 2 or 3 weeks isn't going to cost you an all-star spot. But yeah, he's been great this year.
All right, before we get into the tidal wave of injuries that we have to discuss, even more than the ones we've already brought up, a couple of minor moves in terms of two-way deals. You've got Washington signing Devin Dotson and waiving Jordan Shackle. And then I know you've got stuff on this, and there's one other one as well.
Yeah, the Washington one, this was mostly done. Shackle is a wing. He's about 6'6". Dotson is very much a point guard, and they are down point guards big time in Washington right now. Monte Morris is out. DeLon Wright is out. So that left them without their 2 top point guards. Jordan Goodwin, he's another point guard on the team. He's banged up a little bit, so that is tough. He played last night, but he's also been banged up. Bradley Beal actually started at the point, which I don't hate. I kind of like Bradley Beal in the on-ball creator role quite a bit there. But they needed just another guy. So in comes Devin Dotson. This is kind of good usage of your G League roster. He's playing with the really fun named Capital City Go-Go. He was playing for them, and Shackle, presumably he'll just, once he clears waivers, he'll probably sign with the Go-Go too, and we'll see if they kind of undo this down the line a little bit. But yeah, they need a little bit more guard depth. And then the other one is Portland signed Ibu Baji, who's a big man prospect, and they waived Olivier Sarr, another big man, and the idea, I'm guessing, for Portland to get Ibu Baji was they wanted to get a guy who was young. He's only 20, so just turned 22 or 20 also at the beginning of the season. 7'2", does not have a ton of experience, but he was starting to do some stuff in the G League. 7.5 points per game, 6 rebounds, about 2.5 blocks. Was starting to show some stuff, and I'm guessing Portland was like, let's get this guy in here and let's bring him in and put him into a spot where we feel pretty good about this. So
and just give him a look.
Yeah, that's it. And I think they kind of like, all right, we've seen Olivier Sarr. He finished last year with the Thunder. We've seen him for a couple months now, inclusive of training camp. Well, let's get Baji in here and kind of lock him up before another team gets him. And now you kind of get your hands on him and can go forward from there.
All right, let's get into all the injuries. What is going on with thumbs? I don't know what's happening. Like
thumbs and big toes.
Yeah.
We should never have evolved, I guess. We
Apparently
have 4 digits like the Simpsons.
Kevin Love has a hairline fracture in his thumb. Fortunately, a hairline fracture, so it shouldn't be too long that he's out. But still, this is, I mean, especially coming from a Lakers perspective, we've been dealing with all thumbs. Kevin Love, hairline fracture in his thumb too. It's going around the league apparently.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. It's with Love too. JB Bickerstaff said it's really just can he is the pain too much to play. It's in his right thumb, which is really unfortunate because it's on his shooting hand. So that's the tricky part there. And obviously Love is he's a guy who gets after it on the rebounding action and stuff, and that's how he actually suffered the hairline fracture, was on a jam. Jammed his thumb on a play. So we'll see. If it cost him the last game, but we'll see if he's able to fight through it. And that Cleveland team has hit the bumps in the road with some injuries. They also made a lineup change recently. They moved Karis LeVert to the bench as they wanted to get a little bit more defense in the starting group. They put Lamar Stevens in. I think that's going to be more of a permanent type move to leave LeVert on the bench. I think LeVert, Mitchell, and Garland, that's too many guys who need the ball to be at their best in the starting group. Let LeVert kind of run the second unit and do his thing. And I think you're really, you're pretty well set then on your second unit. But so we'll see what happens with Kevin Love.
And if there isn't progress with the second unit, if there's struggles there, if that ends up being a little bit wonky, LeVert may be a name to watch at the trade deadline.
Absolutely. If that's nice piece of salary matching in trade.
Sticking with thumbs, Russell Westbrook injured his thumb last night. We're still waiting for any kind of word on exactly what's going on there. Didn't look like much of anything from I was calling that game live. Did not look like anything really happened there. It just suddenly he was just kind of messing with it and then left the arena with it wrapped. And the Lakers said X-rays were negative. There's going to be more testing today. So no word, but same thing, right thumb. And so that's not good. Shooting hand. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. And again, kind of a bummer because he's adapted quite well to the bench role. Teams won, I think, 3 straight now. If I'm correct on that, they're starting to play better. He is playing really well in that bench role. It's one of those weird ones where he's coming off the bench, but he's still playing 30 minutes a night. So it's a little there, but I think it's created kind of that lineup balance that they were looking for. And if you're Russ, I hate to beat a dead horse here, but if you can make that Derrick Rose transition to where you're good with coming off the bench, he could add 2 or 3 more productive years to his career in that role. So we'll see if this turns into something that keeps him out for any number of games or any significant time.
Right, absolutely. Hopefully it's not. Fingers crossed, but we'll see what happens from here. Damian Lillard out 1 to 2 weeks with a calf strain. That's obviously a big blow for the Portland Trailblazers. Hopefully it's more along the 1 week side of things. But again, anything, calf, it's not as bad as hamstring, but it is something that can be re-aggravated. So you got to be careful with something like this. And I think the Blazers are going to take the conservative approach here and make sure that he's fully back before putting him back out there.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said. I guess it was said that it was he was this was not a re-aggravation because it's in a different spot than his previous calf strain. But when Chris Haynes reported, he was the first one I saw. He said Lillard thinks he's only going to miss 1 or 2 games, but the Blazers will be cautious with this. And Portland's gotten off to that pretty good start in the West. They're 10-6, tied for second with Phoenix and Denver behind the Jazz, who are obviously the surprise of the league so far. So be cautious with it. If it misses a week, it misses a week, but you don't want to push it too far if you're the Blazers.
We didn't put it on our show doc, but we should mention Cade Cunningham potentially maybe heading towards surgery, and that could be the end of a season for him if that happens.
Yeah, that's really bad. This is why this is tough. Is it doesn't matter for wins and losses for Detroit. They were probably going to be a bad team anyway. I know some people said maybe they could be a play-in team and all that, and that's whatever. But why it's bad is development minutes and figuring out who fits together minutes are huge for rebuilding teams. And that's where, even if you lose those games, but all right, Cade Cunningham looks pretty good playing with Jaden Ivey, or he looks pretty bad when he plays with I don't know, Marvin Bagley. Like you just want to be able to start to figure those things out as you're building out your roster and your lineups moving forward. And I think too, this is tough for a guy like Jaden Ivey a little bit because it puts him into much more of a creator role.
Yeah.
And he's been great as a scorer so far, but his creation hasn't been that much. But that's why I think you were so excited to have him with Cade Cunningham, because it's like, all right, Cunningham can do the creation. I think Cunningham prefers to pass. I think he would be a guy who would like to, really make that work. And that gives you a lot of lineup versatility. You can play a lot of different ways with a guy like him in there. So now, I expect Alec Burks and Corey Joseph to play a little bit more, if for no other reason than if you're Detroit, for guys like Ivy and Bay and a couple of the other young kids like Jalen Duran and those guys. You got to have organizers on the floor that could just get you in a good spot. Again, wins and losses, that part doesn't really matter. Although 7 straight losses, let's not let go of the rope before Christmas, because that's where seasons turn really ugly.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We do have, this is another big one, Tyrese Maxey, 3 to 4 weeks with a foot fracture for a 76ers side that is already missing out on James Harden. And there's going to be overlap here with these injuries that this is your entire backcourt for Philadelphia. This was the one thing that we said when James Harden was injured was, okay, well, they still have Tyrese Maxey. He's going to have to take on more of the load. Now, without both of them, this is going to be some really tough sledding for the 76ers, missing both of those guys.
And I don't know if you saw it, but because it happened right as we were starting to put the show together, Joel Embiid is out the next 2 games.
I did not see that. Oh my gosh.
I believe it was back soreness. I'll check and make sure I got that right. But yeah, it's he has mid left foot sprain, or left mid foot sprain. So yeah. He's going to miss the back-to-back. They have back-to-backs against the Hornets this week. So no Joel Embiid. Tobias Harris practiced today and thinks he'll be back. If Harris can't play, that's 4 or 5 starters that are out. So yeah. I mean, that's that's tough sledding for a team that's 500.
Without Maxey, you're without James Harden. You have every reason to just be insanely cautious with Joel Embiid right now, right? Because you've got to be looking at it from just in terms of a wins and losses perspective. What's the likelihood that without Harden, without Maxey, yes, maybe Embiid could power you to a win, and yet, particularly if the opponent is the Hornets. But if you have some tougher games ahead on your schedule, I don't know if you have a lot of incentive, especially if there's any kind of doubt whatsoever with Embiid, to put him out there if you know that even if he puts up a Herculean performance, there's still a decent chance you're going to pick up a loss because you're missing so much of your backcourt scoring. Are you better off in the long run just being super cautious with Embiid and not playing him and then taking the loss and living to fight another day?
Yeah, probably. You're focused on, the bigger picture here, especially with Embiid. I think this is why I was a little bit down on Philly below Boston and Milwaukee in the conference, just because I was afraid something was going to happen. I thought it'd be Harden or Embiid. Both Embiid, obviously, a very long injury history. Harden now, I think we have to say his is getting long, right? We're in year 3 of injuries for him, and then Maxey, though, this came out of nowhere. It just landed awkwardly on a drive to the basket and then out. So yeah, I mean, this is tough for them. They it's a little bit of, you just got to get through it, right? But it's it's not easy.
Here's how do you approach this? Here's their schedule: Brooklyn, Charlotte, Orlando. That's their next 4. Those are 4 very winnable games. Is that a good thing that they're playing against teams that maybe still with a skeleton lineup, you might still be able to get by? Or does this make it more damaging than if your opponents were the top tier teams in the NBA, because now you're at greater risk of flipping what almost certainly would be wins on your record into losses?
Yeah, I mean, that's the tough thing. I think you would look at it and say, all right, the Brooklyn game, probably write that one off without these guys. But then you're hoping Charlotte, Orlando, you'd hope you can get through those. Your challenge is with that stretch is can you without
Yeah.
all of these guys? I mean, Charlotte and Orlando, they're clearly, I'm not trying to say they're good teams, but they're also not that bad. If this was April, yeah, maybe, because they'd probably likely not be trying to win at that point. But it's not. It's the end of November, beginning of December, as we start to approach these games. So it's, I don't know. This is going to be a tough stretch for them, especially if this Embiid deal stretches longer than just these next couple of games.
Well, hopefully it does not. Hopefully they are able to get healthy soon, and hopefully we can stop with all these injuries. It feels like every day all I'm seeing is just so many more injuries hitting the league. It's crazy.
And these are not like injury guys out for a game or two. Like some of these are pretty big. I mean, we lost like 5 point guards in the last week. Just guys going down. I will say too that Sixers Nets game, Ben Simmons returned to Philadelphia, and he was pretty funny about it after the Nets game on Sunday. Somebody asked him, and he goes, "Why? Is there something going on with that?" And then he proceeded to say, like, "Yeah, Philly's tough." And then he talked about how he loved his time there and all that stuff. But yeah, I'll be tuning in at least briefly to see the reaction he gets. Yeah.
Yep, that is coming. All right. Let's wrap things up there. Let's go watch some soccer.
Yeah, let's do it. USA, baby, all the way.
That's right. Let's go. 8 years in the making. We've been waiting for this.
For
the U.S. to get back into the World Cup. It's been way too long. So excited for this one.
Here's my prediction. U.S. wins 2-0. Christian Pulisic in the first half. Brendan Aronson, substitution goal in the second half.
I like it. 2-0, although that only counts when they're playing Mexico. But still, I like that scoreline. That scoreline. All right, everybody. Make sure you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office Show on YouTube. Don't forget to also follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Till next time, see ya. Stay safe. Let's go USA.